Hello, everyone. Guess who I have with me today on As Long as You're Breathing? It is our friend Maggie Sarfo. How you doing, Maggie?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Maysha. I'm very well, thank you. It's great to be here again.
I know it is so good to have you. It's just like it's like a homecoming. It's like just it's like having you come home. But
Mm,
I want to get some housekeeping out of the way, and then you're not going to delve into our topic, okay?
yeah.
I want to remind everyone that if you have not enabled StreamYard in your settings, then I won't be able to see you whenever you post comments. And we have somebody watching us already. Hello, good to have you when you're here with us live. So I'm not ignoring anyone. So please don't ever think that. You just have to be enabled in the settings with StreamYard. So please do that so that you can post over in the chat and I know that you're here and we can answer your questions because we certainly want to do that and we want to engage with you. If you're watching on replay, we love having you just as well. Please put hashtag replay and Maggie and I will get back to you with any questions that you have as well. We know there is a lot of content out there and we both value your time and your attention to either one of us whenever we're doing a live or whatever we present on Facebook. I know Maggie feels the same way I do. We appreciate it very much. So with all that behind us now, we're just going to delve into, my goodness, our topic today is, I love it. I love it. Co-creating with higher teams. You know, I know people are like, say what? And so let's just delve into that. What do we mean? What are we even saying with that title? What does that mean?
I know. So some of you who have been following some of our conversations since the start of the year, you would have also noted that I said one of the bigger themes I was going to address this year was all to do with the multidimensional self. And
Yes.
so this is an aspect of that topic. And I believe that as we go on this journey of exploring the multidimensional self, there is so much more that comes with it. So I'm taking bits and pieces of what being a multidimensional person feels like. You may have already heard other people, well, most people say that we are spiritual beings having an amazing physical life. And so, again, if you look at that and what we're going to discuss here today, it's similar. So take it on the easy side, but are we going to go deep? Yeah, I can't promise that we will as well.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's any way to have this discussion and not. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there are a lot of people that they want these kind of topics. They want a place to go to for it. And
Mhm.
the way I feel about it is truly, I want to bring this kind of information to the people who want it. And so,
Absolutely.
and when you're ready for that information, here it is. And if
Mhm.
you're not ready for it, you can listen and say, what? Or you can, say, okay, I'll listen to them another time. Either way is fine. Because I've been there. I was one who didn't listen to any of this kind of stuff for years. And so I was one of those people. And now I can't get enough of any of it. So there's, it's wherever somebody is at in their journey is perfectly fine with me. But I
Mhm.
really want to bring all the information and higher being teams. How would you even define what that is? What is a higher being?
Mhm.
What is a higher being?
So it's a term that represents a multitude of things.
Okay.
For some people, their higher being team will include what we normally call their higher self or the inner self, the aspect of them that's not very tangible or it's not kind of visible to our physical eye. For others, they may be connecting with, I guess, multidimensional beings. And so these will be beings who are not necessarily on our physical planet as we know it. And so remember that we are kind of spiritual beings having a physical experience. And so then it will be the spiritual dimensions that they are connected with. These higher being teams are beings who are connected with them and assist them to have an amazing physical experience. And so, in simplest terms, then if you're someone, for instance, who are connected to angelic beings or angels in general, then that could be archangels or angels, or your, some people will say your guide guardian angel, for instance. There is a group of higher beings called the Ascended Masters that I personally work with quite a lot in the Akashic Records work that I do. And these are beings who have taken physical embodiment. So they have lived on our planet before. They know what's like to experience the human pain as well as have a good life. And they have gone through the soul evolution in such a way that at some point they soul reached a level where they could ascend with their physical bodies. And that's why we call them ascended masters. You may hear that most spiritual practices or religions or cultural practices will have their own forms of ascended masters. So, for instance, if we look at the divine feminine embodiment, then you hear maybe people from Egypt talking about Isis as a physical embodiment, as an ascended master. You will hear Christians talking about Jesus Christ, and in the ascended masters world, is Lord Sananda, and he's seen as a being who walked our planet as a physical being and ascended, for instance. And so many different religions and practices and spiritual practices and cultures all have forms of ascended beings and ascended masters that they connected with. On the planetary level, you will also find that, people are connected to different planets in terms of star systems. And so you will find that as they go on an awakening journey, they would be drawn to certain planets or certain stars or certain beings who are connected to different stars and planets. So, for instance, Maysha knows I talk about the blue lines from a planet called Sirius. Some of you would talk about planets or systems. For instance, it will come back to me.
Arcturian.
The Arcturians are also planets and planetary beings. I was going to talk about the one, so people refer to it as a planet that sunk.
Oh, Atlantis.
Atlantis, yeah. So that's all forms of, planetary connections that you may end up connecting, and these are all part of kind of your multi-dimensional being self. And as you understand more and more of who you are, you will find that you will be drawn to some of these kind of information about certain things. And it's because in a way, as a soul, you are connected to it. And as you do more and more of that, you connecting more and more to what I call your true self or your blueprint. And so as we move into this conversation, we can explore how we then start to connect more and co-create with these multidimensional beings. I'll stop there.
Oh, that's amazing. There's so much in there, and that people have thought about, but are familiar with. Angels. Angels are just, we're very familiar with that term. And I think the divine fits in that as well.
I was gonna say that that's definitely one big aspect that I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
And for some people, their multi-dimensional or their higher being team is certainly God or source or the universal consciousness, and that's it, nothing else.
Right.
And that is also perfectly fine as well. Yeah.
Right. And as a matter of fact, much of what you're talking about, I've experienced. I do. I work with angels. I certainly work with the divine, and those things were not something I expected to do. I never saw myself as a healer. But then, as I got into the quantum emotional healing, I realized we're all healers. We all have the ability to heal ourselves. Now, there are times when working with a professional healer is a better choice, perhaps. So I'm not saying that people should not work with a professional healer. There's definitely a time to do that. My analogy about there's a time to do your own hair and a time to go to a hairdresser. I believe that. Yeah, absolutely. I believe it. Thank you, Christy Pierce, for cutting my hair. But but we are all healers, and so so as I've moved into that, and I work with my own angels, but I know I told you this, and I never got to explain it to you. I was doing an Akashic Records reading with a friend, and she is. I was approached by an Arcturian who wanted me to channel, and I was like, "What? I'm getting this." Her audience, and I'm like, I had never in my life, I channel all the time, frequently doing this, I channel, but never had I been approached in that way. And but he's like, yes, she is a healer, and she is going to be, this is what she's going to do down the line. But I want her coming to Akasha, and I want her to study and train with me, and I want you to introduce me. And I want you to explain, and because she's young, and she was one of my first guitar students, actually, and so here I am, and I'm like, I don't know about this, because it was his name is Ashner, and he has since come back many times, and he's like, a lot together, and so I was like, holy smoke! So this is an Arcturian, and this is what channeling an Arcturian is like. And so he also wanted me to put him in touch with another person who, and I'm like, holy smokes! And so but once you open yourself up to this, it's not far-fetched. It is not out there. It's not any different than working with your angels or working with the divine. I mean, believing in multidimensional, believing in beyond ourselves or other aspects of self, whichever way you want to believe in it, whichever belief system is yours. Once you open yourself up to it, you're open to it, So, and the possibilities once you open yourself up to it are amazing. So I don't know where you want to go next. I don't know if you want to talk more about that or if you want to go to co-creating. So I'm just going to let you go. But yes, I find it all very fascinating, and all at the same time, not as far out there as people may think, because we are talking about angels and God and the divine and all of those things. We're not talking just, when we say higher being teams. I know you're also talking, you also work with the intergalactic team too, right?
So part of the planetary system, so the intergalactic teams or the intergalactic councils are part of the planetary systems and leaders within the planetary system. And we also talking about light beings here, so beings of light and love who are connected to supporting us as humans as we go on our evolutionary journey, and also supporting the planet Earth. And speaking of Earth, for some people, they are so grounded that their spiritual connection is actually with nature, Mother Nature around them. And so you will find that some people go and hack trees and embody trees and everything. So, it can be anything in any aspect of connection, but you would be able to tell, because you would know that when you are in the presence of your higher being team, you feel at one, you feel very aligned, and you feel very connected, and you know that you are at your, what I'll call your 0 point of consciousness, or you feel very alive and aligned. So there are so many different, there are people who are connected to, oh my God, like fairies and everything, One day I was doing an Akashic Records consultation, and suddenly, as soon as this lady asked a question, there was this huge this pony with the rainbow thing in front of their head. What is it called? Unicorns. And I never thought unicorns existed, and suddenly this huge, beautiful unicorn with, this thing appeared, and then I say it to her, and she starts laughing because she definitely believes in unicorns. She's an artist, and she connects with the unicorns all the time. She's also an animal whisperer, so
That makes perfect sense.
she works with horses and talks to with animals all the time, and helps people connect with their pets in terms of dogs and cats and stuff. So
Well, you
we
see,
all have forms of expressing the
right.
other aspect of us in so many different ways. Yeah.
Well, you've seen the t-shirts and stuff that says, always be yourself, unless of course you be a unicorn and then be a unicorn. I mean, that's what I'm saying here, because unicorns are so magical. And so always be yourself, unless of course you can be a unicorn, then be a unicorn. So, I mean, that's so
amazing.
Yeah. So when you said that, I'm like, oh my God, somebody, a unicorn. So that is just something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Many of us that are into Akashic records and that sort of thing, we know like our soul origination, which Andromedan. I know that I'm a mission realm. From Andromedan, and so many are Syrian. That sort of thing. So we connect, and some of the things that we go through here are because of our soul origination.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we connect with our soul origination to heal issues we have. Our astrology helps us with our healing, Chiron wound healings, which I very much love helping people with, which is not a complex thing to do, but it's just people don't know about it. So it's mainly introducing people to the concept. And ascended masters, as you said, once you introduce people to the concept, they love helping people. And many of them are over, like Saint Germain is over the violet ray. Lady Portia of the Karmic Board, she is the white flame, and things like that. So none of this is really, it's really a matter of acquainting people with it. On the one hand, but then on the other hand, it is more complex too. Like I said, there's two levels of it. There is, we can do self, and then what we need to, someone like you who deals with it kind of at a higher level, or I think sometimes the reason I use the term higher level is a deeper understanding, because you're perhaps open to it and more comfortable with it. So whereas we're comfortable coming to you for the healing, we're not necessarily confident enough in self to do the healing ourselves, or work with the beings for the healing ourselves. I think maybe that's where it comes into play. Do you think maybe that's it, or I don't know. What do you think about that?
There is certainly that, in terms of the confidence in ourselves to know that, yes, these aspects of us are actually us as well. And to fully embody that, as you were talking, it was like, Maysha must have read my notes. so there is that going on. But also, I think sometimes people like myself, because part of our core purpose is also to deliver messages, and maybe to teach and to share information, or to heal others, then maybe we come with a bit more in terms of how we translate that from our personal lives into other people's lives as well. So I think that's the other thing to it, in terms of some people are more like oracles, and so they have had the training, or their souls have had the training over time to be able to impart knowledge in a way that helps people, even when they don't have the confidence to reconnect and get that confidence, and then go on their journey. But obviously then we're also there to support as needed. So that I think those two reasons could be why. So should we carry on? So what is co-creation? And co-creation can mean many things. It's obviously from the word creation, being able to create. But more particularly in this context for the conversation, I wanted us to view co-creation from the perspective of us being spiritual beings having physical lives. Sometimes we come into challenges and we feel that the physical life doesn't necessarily have to be great, but the physical life needs to be amazing. We said we'll come and have an amazing physical life. And
Yes.
so creation, in terms of creating our lives in the context of this conversation, is to look at how we can create our lives in a way that serves us the most, that makes us happy and experience life, you know, in our earthly plane in a very great way, but also impact others positively. That's part of your calling. We are connected to the whole. So that is that. And then obviously the aspect of the co-creation is, as we connect more with the higher being teams or aspects of ourselves that are not that physical, because they transcend what we call the human suffering. They transcend some of the problems or the issues or the pain that we may have as humans. Then it's easy for us to then use part of their energy that is already within us anyway, and I'll talk about embodiment later. So use that energy to then create more and more of the amazing life experiences that we need to experience in our lifetime, and again, in the process, impact ourselves in a good way and also impact others as well. So we have defined higher beings, we have defined co-creation and what that means within this context, our ability to create an amazing 3D life experience in conjunction with our higher being teams, whether this is to do with, in your words, your inner self, your higher self, God, source, the divine, the universal consciousness, whether that's to do with your ascended masters, your archangels, nature, mother nature, any kind of spiritual aspect of you that you feel connected to.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess we can explore 3 ways that we can use to co-create with our higher being teams. Unless you have some questions for me, Maysha.
No, I don't. I just wanted to thank whoever was watching us for the heart, because we got a heart there in what you said. So I want to say thank you. I think maybe they've left us now, but we somebody was in the amen corner there. So thank you for
Wonderful.
that. And
thank you.
Yeah. So and I think everything that you just said resonates so well with so many people right now. Oh, we have the person's back. So thank you very much for joining us and for supporting us during our live feed. So yes, do continue. You were going to do three examples. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 3 ways. So let's explore 3 ways that we can create with our higher being teams, because there could be numerous ways, but I thought 3 could be a good number for us to work.
So let's go.
So number 1 is know thyself. Everything comes back to the self, as we know. And I think Maysha has hinted on this already. So you're asking those deep questions around who am I? Looking at soul origination would give you some really, really clear indicators in terms of who you are. But the thing is, with most of these things, you don't have to do anything. Sometimes we feel we need to go searching, but you don't have to do anything. Again, you are already connected with your higher self. You're already connected with your divine being teams. And normally when the time is right for you to really reconnect and awaken and see things in different ways and go in a different aspect of your journey, what you will find is that you will start to experience signs, you start to see stuff that you follow, like, this kind of video that Maysha has kindly put up for us, all of these things. And then you will also be led to so many people. Like for me, I was always the kind of person who was into self-development. I really believed in my ability to create my world the way I wanted it to be. And then at some point, I really got connected with a guy called Wayne Dyer. He passed away maybe a couple of years ago, but he's written tons of books in the self-development world. So I used to kind of audio listen to a lot of his books.
Right.
I used to kind of do meditation, like guided meditations on YouTube and stuff like that. And I think it's because my soul was just guiding me to do what my higher self was guiding me. We are always, always divinely guided. So another term that we can use to describe this conversation is co-creating with the divine or your divine self. So knowing thyself is really important.
Right. I think the context I've been putting it in lately to kind of tie it in for people who follow the page so much is we constantly have the divine, the universe, source, our guides, our angels, our higher self, taking us, trying to raise us vibrationally into alignment with the self we came here to be.
Absolutely.
And that is,
yeah.
and that is the self that we co-created, that we come here and the self that we co-created for the things that the experience we came here to have. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Keep going.
Wonderful. Yeah, and so you may have also heard the term "so above, so below." I may have mentioned it right now.
Yes.
That is the same concept. We are not that different from the self above or the high being teams or the divine self or the divine that we're talking about. And it's about growing and then essentially merging into the same kind of vibrational consciousness as well. So know thyself, that is still number one that you can use, way number one that we can use to co-create with our higher being teams. As we go on a journey to discover more and more of who we truly are, devoid of the conditioning, devoid of how we think other people expect us to be, devoid of what we think others want us to do, all of that, devoid of the fear of becoming our true selves, all of that. The more we do that, the more we're getting closer and closer to the idea of connecting more fully with our higher being teams and co-creating what we want to create for ourselves and having the happiest life that we want. So asking those deep questions, who am I, will lead you into really discovering the self more and more. And we talked about soul origination. So it's the understanding, how your soul has originated, maybe different lifetimes it's had. You can find some of this information in the Akashic records, for instance, discovering information around star seeds, for instance. All of that come together and you will find the ones that you resonate with and the ones that you don't, not so much. And sometimes you will find that some information that you saw or you read or you heard, what you would normally understand exactly what you need to understand at any given time. You come back again, you listen to or you watch or you read the same information. This time there could be a higher level of understanding. It's just, again, it goes to show that you are always divinely guided in reconnecting with the self. Back to what Maysha was saying. We came here to experience and redevelop and reconnect and become who we said we are.
It's a spiral upward experience. We are led to something, I think, to at first just kind of let ourselves become familiar with it. It's like here's something, just want to just run this by you, and just just want to run this by you, and you're kind of like, what's that, and you're like, yeah. And then some time passes, maybe years, and then comes by you again, and only this time you're like, oh, I heard of that before, and you're maybe a little more open to it, or you're maybe very open to it, or it may be that it has to run by you a few more times, or something may spark in you, and you're like, I'm going to look that up. I've came across that it's a spiraling upward to when we're at a point that we're ready for something. And so, so it's a wonderful experience. That it's a growth process, and it's an awakening process, a growth process. It's our journey, and it's the thing that happens to us as long as we're breathing. It's part of what I'm calling living. It's being open to the process, and it's, I think it's what we came here for. This is the beautiful part. It's the beautiful part. So it makes me excited. I get so happy when I talk about this stuff. I'm like, hey, let's do all this stuff. Okay.
So let's move on to number two. So number two is which higher being team. So asking yourself, which higher being teams am I connected with? Again, you are normally divinely guided around this. And as you keep on your journey of learning and being drawn to certain things and exploring further, normally nothing becomes coincidental. Normally, you are connected to certain things. That's why you feel drawn to them. And as you keep exploring and learning and developing yourself more and more, you will find that your higher being teams become more and more clearer. And you will probably keep adding them, and at some point some fall away, and sometimes there's another one that comes in
Yes.
because you need them at that particular time as well. So that happens all the time. So we evolve, and as we evolve, some of our higher being teams, they show themselves to us, or we experience the guidance when we need for a certain thing. Some stay, and then others may also go and give way for others, because that level of development needs someone who's more of a specialist in that particular area, that you need some more, coaching on, that kind of thing, guidance on.
Which is something I experienced recently.
Mhm.
We talked about that. And
Yeah.
that was kind of a traumatic thing for me, and we talked about that too. It was kind of, I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
attached,
Mhm.
But what has happened, I'm going to update you on that and update everyone, because I talked about it is
Mhm.
pretty much the whole angel squad is back now. It was kind of like, okay, we need you to adjust to this. And so Raziel is very much in control and the leader of the pack. I mean, he's definitely, but he and I had to form this bond and this communication, which is very clear now, very clear. But I was so used to communicating with this large team of archangels that I work with, that they kind of had to step back so we could form that, and I said, okay, are you sticking around? Is this going to change again? He's like, no. He's like, I'm you and I are going to work together, but I've always been here. And he's like, and we talked about things that he's always been involved in, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Like, but you weren't ready yet for, because he is considered to be the most spiritually advanced.
Yeah, he's a really, really big guy, and you don't really hear of him the way you hear of the other
You
archangels.
don't. I
But
never
he
heard
is such a wonderful, magical
of.
co-creator as well. Yes.
Isn't he though? And so, but now that he and I have bonded, and I understand where he exists, and maybe we can even talk about that some as we, what I'm saying, where he exists, where we communicate at, etc. Now that that's established, everybody has come back now, and so it's all working for me. But yeah, it's kind of traumatic. Those changes, it's like, what's going on? Where did everybody go? And so, but we have these changes as we grow. It changes, and so we have to be prepared for that. And we're not always, because it's not like they teach us this in school. Okay, in school they teach us. Well, you're going to get older, and around 50 this may happen, and around 60 that may happen, but they don't tell us, oh, and when you have your spiritual awakening, this is going to happen. Now that they don't cover. So that's what you and I are here for.
I love that.
Okay, girl, next.
So I mean, one of the things that we are here, one of the primary reasons is the soul evolution. We come here to experience life and provide opportunities for our souls to evolve, and that's why we sometimes balance it out by looking at so many different angles of our lives. But the soul evolution requires learning and upgrading, and sometimes we upgrade our divine beings or our higher teams as our souls upgrade as well. So that's exactly what Maysha was explaining to us.
Yes.
Okay, so that was number two, knowing which higher being teams that you connected with. And then number three is about embodying. So embodying the team members. And once you embody them, it's all about asking, receiving, because it's automatic. One thing about us as humans is we have the ability to ask. And one thing with our higher being teams is they have the ability to enable us to receive, so long as we are willing to receive. But most of the time, before we can think of something that we can ask for, is because we are meant to be that. And so we are meant to have that experience. And so as we ask, it's always kind of created in the universal consciousness. The thing is, because of how we see life, and because we are so human, and maybe we asked before and we didn't receive before, then we always have something. Sometimes we have something attached to our asking, which makes it longer, because again, everything needs to come into vibrational match before we receive. And so that is what it's all about. And as we do that, we start to co-create and create more and more. So I think the third bit, which I have just mentioned, is very loaded. So I can take them in different steps so we can understand what I'm talking about. So embodying is something that I kind of became more and more aware of maybe a couple of years ago. And I think I did some Facebook live videos around what embodiment is all about.
Okay.
But these days, you also hear embodiment thrown in so many different contexts.
Okay.
But it means the same thing. And I can also put it into context in terms of embodying the higher being teams. So embodying essentially means bringing it into the body, bringing something into the body. So say if you said to yourself, I want to be more confident, then one thing that you may be taught in school or in training or something is embody the confidence. That means start acting like you are. Now that you have learned about it, start to act the confident self that you are. And then by embodying it, you bringing it into the body. It's no longer a concept. It's no longer a mental or a spiritual concept or even an emotional concept. You are bringing it into the physical body and you living it. And that is what embodying is about from a kind of generic perspective. Go ahead.
Like when they say, if you want to be someone who is successful, start living a life of someone who is successful.
Mm-hmm. Embody your success. Yeah.
And then that is what your vibration raises to that. That is what you start attracting. And so many people don't get that. They're like, well, when I become successful, I will start acting, living, looking. And I lived very much in a world. I come from a world where that is the thinking. It is, well, no, that's not for us. We're not those people. Maybe someday we'll be those people. And I was very much, I don't think it works that way. I think
it never does. Yeah.
Unless you go that person. I think you just got to go do that. And they're like, oh, no, we're not those people. And I'm like, well, I think the only way you be those people is just go be those people, And so, and I was constantly being pulled back and like, no, we're not those people. And I'm like, well, maybe you're not.
Exactly. I am.
I was like freeze.
I know I am.
And constantly being, no, you're out of line. Get back in this box. And I'm like, no. So, but many people don't. They really don't feel comfortable doing that. They really feel like they have a place they belong in. Matter of fact, I was talking to she's going to be on next in May, which is Fibromyalgia Month, because her story is about fibromyalgia. Elaine Merrifield, who was born and raised in New England, very practical. And that is what her whole story is about, is all the things she was told she could not be. And she's like, what? She was like me. What do you mean I can't be that? And her family, all through her life, they were like, why are you trying to be that? Why are you trying to go do that? And she's like, talk about trying to put me in a box. And I'm sitting, of course, Elaine, boys, and I'm sitting to her, and I'm like, we love talking to each other, but it's very, our lives mirror each other so much. But that's what you're talking about, is there are those of us who kind of bucked against that before. And I think that's probably those of us who are more embrace spiritual awakening and are and do this to try to show others, come on, embrace spiritual awakening. It's okay. It's safe.
Absolutely.
Come on. And that's what we're doing is, is say, come on, it's safe, which when I was little, I was trying to say, come on, it's safe. We can go be that, and so that's, I think what we're still doing is, come on, it's
yeah. And everything you've said there, Maysha, is just you just showed perfect examples of how this whole idea of embodying your team members, asking and receiving and co-creating may or may not work. And so again, and so, someone saying, well, but what do you mean? We can't embody that. We can't be rich when we are not rich. We can't act like we're rich when we know we're not rich. When we are rich, we will be happy. That kind of thing. The frequencies are not the same. Like the universal consciousness does not care what you think or whether you have, £1 million in your account or $1 million in your account or not. All it cares about is something within you wants to be rich. And you have put, because that thought came to you, then you are meant to be. And so then you put that thought out there and you meant to receive it. But then circumstances and conditioning and everything you've been brought up says, actually, we're not that kind of person. So then even when you are meant to be rich and you voice it out and you get shut down, we call it learned experiences, then you kind of crawl back into it and say, I really wish I was. And that again changes the frequency because you are. But then every time you allow the true core self to come up and shine and be that person, the embodiment of who you really are, so you can match the frequency of, say, your higher being teams or the divine and manifest what you want, it gets shut down. And so over time, you might go, maybe I can't embody that anymore. So there is that. So always look at the positives. And when you have an idea, it means you are meant to create it. And if you are not meant to be that, you won't have the thought pattern. Because again, thought and inspiration, someone says, oh, I've got an inspiration. Someone said to me, the meaning of inspiration or to be inspired is the same as to be in spirit. And so it's that aspect of you. Is that aspect of you that is not tangible, that drops that thought into your mind and go, oh my God, I want to be this, or I want to be able to do this, and all of that. But that is mirroring your true core self. And so all you have to do once the thought has come in is just go and create that. And why do the hard work by creating all of that by yourself when you can just merge into your higher being teams by embodying the power they bring into the creation pot, basically. So, for instance, if you wanted to co-create something, and that happens to be the specialism of Archangel Raziel, for instance, why do you want to go and try to find out how to do it when you can go, let's co-create it together? And then, for instance, if you hear that, Archangel Raziel is the wizard of miracles or manifestation, why don't you just go, I want to embody my manifestation self, and then you put the word out there and start to co-create, and the next day you go out and you meet people who are also kind of going to help you achieve that. It's just you bringing the frequency. And so then the whole idea of you embodying the specialities of what you want to create, but also embodying the qualities that your higher teams bring you, then makes your asking very, very valid because it's aligned with who you are. It makes the receiving easy as well, so long as the frequency match. And there you go, voila, you have your co-creative self experiencing life in its most amazing self.
My favorite yogi that I follow, he says that everything that we think of, that we envision, that comes to our mind or whatever, really already exists anyway, because everything's been created. So it's and we don't think of it, or it doesn't come into our mind or whatever by accident. It is meant for us, and it's up to us whether we accept that or don't accept it.
Yeah.
Then when we do exactly what you're saying, then we become in vibrational alignment to it. When we accept, that's meant to be. And of course, when we come in vibrational alignment with with that, it is attracted to us,
Yeah.
whatever we're in
Yeah.
vibrational alignment with,
Mhm.
we are attracted to. And I love what you're saying about, well, use those team members you have, use those,
Yeah.
use your connections,
Yeah, exactly.
in this world, we're big on networking. We are
Mm.
network.
Mm.
Kind of put a stop
Very
to
good analogy. I
yeah,
like that.
we kind
Yes.
of put a stop to it. So Zoom boomed. Okay, Zoom boomed because of because we are a network one way or another. We are a people of networking. Well, now we need to be doing our spiritual networking, and we need to realize that I think that's why my team just keeps getting bigger and bigger, because I was big on networking. I loved networking. And so everything that is meant for us, that we're vibrationally aligned to, that we co-created, as you're saying, it's already there. It's just a matter of getting ourselves back into alignment, and alignment with it, and then just network and get it.
And make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the word I want to add here is the idea of ease. And again, somehow we conditioned that anything that is worth receiving, because we want it so much, because it means so much to us, then we have to work really, really hard for it. Or it's going to come to us, but before it comes to us, we're going to go through a lot of trouble in order to get it. And again, that is a conditioning, and life can be easy when we accept that it doesn't have to be difficult.
Accepting is where the grace comes in. Like when we just accept somebody is giving us a gift, that's graciously accepting. So that's because you hear this a lot in the spiritual world. I want this to happen with grace and ease. Well, the grace is graciously accepting.
Yeah.
And then the ease is the fact that it's not elbow grease, it's not laborious. That does not mean that there is not something to do, but it's not it doesn't take exhausting amounts of energy. It just takes energy that we are in alignment to expend, because it's a positive energy loop when we're in alignment for it.
Yeah.
Okay. I love
it. And that feeds into concepts around time and instant manifestation, or around how we create. And if we said, well, in order for me to create this, I'm going to go through this linear timeline. So I'm going to go from A, then to B, then to C, then to D, all the way to E. If you look at it and go, actually, I'm putting out there, I'm creating with my higher being teams, and it's not time bound, it means that you're also creating the ability to manifest in the now. You're not too concerned about the how, because the how is sometimes, or most of the time, really informed by our earthly awareness of how something is created. And because we want to embody and co-create with universal consciousness, then they don't necessarily see everything in the linear time frame that we see. So true co-creation, merging the 3D and the third dimensional self into the higher dimensional selves, is also about being open to the idea that some of these things would happen and could happen instantaneously, and also not necessarily within the constructs, the human constructs that we believe things are meant to be created in.
I think Joe described his last name right. I'm never confident about last names. I think he calls that that's when you're in the quantum. When you're in the quantum, and that's when we can get past the linear thinking and step into the quantum thinking. Then that's when we realize that time is very different, and that things don't have to be hard and take a long time. And I still have people who I have friends who are very much in our world, even, who chastise me for my lack of patience. And I'm like, I'm not really patient. I just understand that all of this stuff is not supposed to be taking the time it's taking. That the issue is we are still dealing with people who think everything is supposed to be hard and laborious and take time, although they say they don't. Who, you know, they say, oh, this should be with grace and ease, you know, but they still think that it should be, you know, they're because we are so conditioned to think it, you know. So it's not
Yes.
really, you know, I really don't think that I'm that, because I can be quite patient with I can be quite patient with people, you know. So it's not that I'm an impatient person in that way. My impatience is and has always been, and I see this now, is I came here knowing that things were not supposed to take a long time. I'm very patient with people. I'm patient with people growing and understanding. You know, I'm very patient from that standpoint. But I'm not patient with that things, you know, we should grasp the concept, and then things should not take a long time, you know.
Yeah. And I'm with you there. And so often than not, some of my clients say to me, "We know you, Maggie. You don't walk. You always prefer to run." I'm like, "Yeah, because I don't see the point in wasting time."
Okay, now you've got it right. Okay, so let's go. More. We don't. Let's just go. And then people look at me and they're like, "You're so impatient." And I'm like, "No, it's just we covered that. Let's just go." And it's because it's not impatient. You know, I'm very willing to be patient where patience is needed. But I just understand that once you have the concept, once you know what something is, once you have that, then it's just embody it, you know, just embody it. And that's the frustrating part for me is getting to, okay, I know it, now let's just embody it. That's where I get frustrated. It's like, okay, let's just do it now. Let's just do it. And getting people to just do it now has been my whole life. It has been, I've been in a world where people just do it now. And stepping out of that world has been, yeah, my friend Christy is up here. You're not impatient, and see that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm seen as impatient because my mindset is not understood. You know, and that's okay. You know, just people getting to thinking what we're talking about, quantum. You know, and that's because her dad would agree and go, "Oh no, she's not impatient," because you know, I just we've got it now. Let's just embody it. Let's just be it.
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
It.
Yeah.
Because once you walk in it, you are it.
Yeah, exactly. So why waste time? The other thing that I want to mention is releasing the holding on to the results. So release the results. So yes, you know, you've embodied it, you've asked, you know, you've received it, and you're just waiting for vibrational alignment. Then stop opening it up and going, why is it not here yet? Oh, why is it not here yet? Because then that introduces back into the spectrum that idea of resistance, and it messes up the vibration in terms of coming into full alignment within the time frame that is possible for it to be achieved. So, and I mean this from the perspective of the actual result that you're looking for, or even sometimes how you want it to show up.
How you want it to show up, yes. That is my understanding of what resistance is, and which is why I always end manifesting. Anytime I'm manifesting, and manifesting is I think a misunderstood word in so many ways. I always end manifesting with, okay, this being the way I see it, or better, and then that's releasing my expectation. Okay, this was my expectation. This is the way I would like it. But I realize that I may have, because I'm here in this body with the conditioning that I've had that I'm still trying to overcome, I realize that I may have a skewed view. And so because of that, if there's a better way and I've missed it somehow, let's do that.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, so a friend of mine calls that, you know, hiring the heavens. So you just hire, you know, you just, when you release it, you remove yourself from the hard work. and the grace and ease comes through that. And you just allow it to brew and show up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that does require a little bit of patience, which I may not have. I may be a
We
little,
are human after all, aren't we?
that is what I say. Whenever I backtrack around to it, I'll say, okay, please understand I am embodied right now in the human form, and so I may be, a little, I may be showing that. And I get a chuckle and I get, no, not you. And I'm like, yeah. And I get it. It's fine. It's fine. Things are fine. Just keep doing the stuff we've given you. Keep walking the path that you're on. And that's when I get a lot of people are like, their intuition, their connection is just hits. Whereas I get full conversations, et cetera, et cetera. I know why that is. That is for me, because who I am and what my role is and what my path is requires a lot of communication and a lot of things, because if I don't see big picture stuff and I don't have that interaction, I'm not going to achieve. That's what it takes to keep me vibrationally in alignment. That's what and so a lot of people are like, the intuition doesn't work that way. And I'm like, well, maybe it's not just intuition. Maybe it's just not full blown, full blown powwowing. It's not just a powwow, And so, but that's why that is. That is how I stay or get in alignment and stay there. Is I do ask, but I say up front, it's not my intent to. But what they do is, instead of us revisiting what I've manifested, they're like, okay, let's talk about the things you've got coming up, and so we work on those, and and that is how. But that's a process that we've developed. The team and I have developed to keep me from going back and doing exactly what you said, going back and messing up what I've been working on. It's like, okay, that's in the pot, leave that alone. That's oven. Don't open the oven. Don't make the cake fall.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so many, I think, real life example analogies that we can put into these things, and just bring more fun into this whole idea of living, an amazing life as spiritual beings.
Yeah. And it is what we are here to do. We are to ultimately enjoy this. Yeah, embrace it and enjoy it. So do you have more that I know we're close to time, but do you have more that down there that you wanted to get to? Or did we get to 3? Did we get to
We did. We did. And I'll just go over everything we've discussed today.
Okay.
So first we've discussed, or we've kind of put some context around what we're referring to as higher being teams. We have then defined co-creation and what that means within the context of this conversation. We then explored 3 ways to co-create with our higher being teams. Number 1, know thyself. Ask questions like, who am I? So origination, and allow your divine self to direct you. You don't need to do too much work around that. You are always divinely guided. Number 2, really know which higher being teams you are connected with, and that comes with the journey as you go along. You don't have to do too much around it. Just be curious and enjoy the journey as you go along. Number 3, embody the teams. Ask, receive, and just go away and create. And finally, avoid resistance. Don't go back and mess up what is cooking in the pot.
And work with them to find ways not to, because they will help you with that. Find your weaknesses, acknowledge what they are, and okay, how do I not do that? And they will work with you. And so, thank you, Maggie. Now I want to do some shameless promotion, and I also want to ask you, will you consider next time your book? You consider going to chapter 10 and thinking about that next time, because I love chapter 10 in this book, and it just happens to be the one that you wrote.
It does. Surprise.
And I think that if people do chapter 10 in this book, it helps them do all the things we just said. It helps them embody. It helps them self-heal. It does all those things that we just talked about.
It does. And, when we talk about the quantum field and going into that 0 point of consciousness, which I share more in chapter 10. When you are there, that 0 point of consciousness, you so neutralize to who you truly are, and you can create anything that you want to create from that point.
Yeah, I love chapter 10. The whole book is great. It is. I'm going to put your website banner up before we go off. I'll put so it'll be there in that video.
Cool. So that's maggiesarfo.com/personal growth.
Oh, okay. Oh, I've got the Mirror Consultant. That'll get there too. Okay.
Yeah, for our conversations, I think maggiesarfo.com/personal growth is better. It's got all the juicy stuff, and the book is there as well for anyone who wants to.
All right. Then I'll go ahead and put that one up. That's what I'll do.
Thank you.
Definitely get the book. I have one signed, of course. And mine has a little note in the front. But I don't think I got home from my little trip. Somebody said, "How many speeding tickets did you get?" That was the fastest trip home I ever saw. Had to get home from home. but yes, it's an amazing book. But chapter 10, I definitely love for sure. And if we could talk about that next time, I think this is a great intro into chapter 10. So maybe we can do that next month. We'll look for a date and do that. Maggie, great job. As always, you introduced concepts that are new to some people, but then once you get into them, it's like, wait a minute, that's not really new at all. That's new stuff to it. I hadn't thought of it that way though. But it's not all new. And so I think it definitely helps bridge thinking. And I think that's important. I think that's really important and something I really want to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Maysha. Thanks for having me again.
And
thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yes. Okay, you all. You know what I'm going to say? As long as you're breathing, keep living. Love you all. Bye.